Under a sky painted with the fading blush of dusk, a question lingers in the air. Have you ever felt an inexplicable pull, as if destiny itself whispered your name? In a quiet corner of a bustling city, where old brick buildings and ivy-clad facades tell tales of forgotten eras, a single moment can shatter the ordinary. For Derek, that moment began in the most unassuming place, a modest coffee shop where fate, with a gentle yet irresistible force, had already set the stage for a story that would defy logic and ignite a passion beyond measure. Derek wasn't just any man. He carried the weight of leadership and the strength of an alpha, a title earned through countless battles both seen and unseen. His life, a delicate balance between the tangible and the mysterious, was defined by responsibility and the relentless pursuit of protecting his pack. A community bound not just by blood, but by an unspoken promise to shield one another from the perils lurking in the shadows. Yet beneath his confident exterior, there was an echo of loneliness, a yearning for something that transcended the ordinary confines of duty and order. That fateful evening, as the soft chime of the door ushered, in a cool breeze mingled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and cinnamon, Derek's eyes met hers. In that split second, time itself seemed to slow down. Her presence was subtle, yet electrifying, like a whispered secret in the midst of a crowded room. With hair that caught the last rays of the sun, and eyes that shimmered with a blend of melancholy and mystery, she appeared as if she had stepped out of a forgotten dream, a fragment of a memory that he had never truly known, yet somehow recognized. For Derek, every rational thought wavered under the spell of this unexpected encounter. How could a single look from a stranger ignite such a storm within him? Was it the reflection of his own hidden desires? Or perhaps a reminder of a past that had long been buried beneath the responsibilities of leadership? The questions spun in his mind, each one more profound than the last, as he found himself inexplicably drawn to the enigma seated by the window. In that charged moment, the coffee shop transformed into a theater of destiny. The mundane clatter of cups and the hum of quiet conversations faded into a soft background score, allowing the silent drama of fate to take center stage. As Derek's heart pounded with a mixture of apprehension and anticipation, a subtle current of emotion surged through him, a promise of battles yet to be fought, both within and beyond the confines of his familiar world. This was a turning point, a juncture where the threads of two seemingly disparate lives began to intertwine in a tapestry woven with passion, loss, and an unyielding sense of purpose. The mystery of her eyes, the fleeting hint of sadness in her smile, and the unspoken connection that bound them, spoke of secrets too profound for mere words. It was as though the universe had conspired to bring them together, challenging them to step beyond the boundaries of their known realities. Derek's inner world, usually so controlled and measured, now roiled with a tempest of emotions. Amidst the calm exterior demanded by his role as an alpha, there churned a silent rebellion against the monotony of duty, a desperate longing to embrace the unknown. Could this mysterious encounter be the catalyst for change, the spark that would ignite a journey into realms both beautiful and treacherous? The very air around him seemed to murmur with possibilities, each breath echoing the promise of a story that was just beginning to unfold, in the gentle interplay of light and shadow. As the city prepared to surrender to the night, Derek felt the weight of his responsibilities meld with an inexplicable sense of hope. The connection he felt was not merely a fleeting infatuation. It was a call to awaken parts of his soul long dormant, a beckoning to explore the depths of his own heart. And though the path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, the intensity of that single profound glance filled him with a daring resolve to pursue the mystery of her presence, to uncover the secrets hidden behind her gaze, and ultimately, to challenge the destiny that had so cleverly intertwined their fates. As the last vestiges of sunlight slipped away, leaving behind a canvas of twinkling stars, Derek made a silent vow. No matter the obstacles, no matter how daunting the shadows that threatened to obscure his path, he would not allow this newfound spark to fade. For in that transient moment, in the midst of the ordinary and the sublime, he had glimpsed the extraordinary, an invitation to a journey of passion, peril, and profound transformation that would forever alter the course of his life. And so, with the promise of night as his witness and the enigmatic allure of her memory burning bright, Derek stepped forward into the unknown, where every heartbeat carried the weight of destiny, and every whispered question was a prelude to a story that would captivate hearts and challenge the very nature of love itself. In the heart of the moonlit forest, beneath a sky etched with stars, Derek's world unfolded. A world where every decision, every breath, carried the weight of an entire pack. As the alpha, he was the cornerstone of a legacy built on strength, loyalty, and a relentless drive to protect those he held dear. Yet, behind his commanding presence lay a burden that few could see, a solitude that whispered in the silence between heartbeats. Derek's day began before the first light of dawn, when the forest was shrouded in a velvety darkness broken only by the silver gleam of the moon. It was in these moments that he felt the full force of his responsibilities, his eyes scanning the treetops and shadowed clearings for any sign of danger. The crisp night air carried with it a chill that seemed to echo the inner loneliness of a leader whose very existence was defined by the duty to stand firm. He knew that the safety of his pack depended on his vigilance, a relentless watch over a territory where the balance between order and chaos could tip in an instant. Every morning, the pack gathered in a clearing where the earth was soft beneath their paws and the ancient trees stood like silent sentinels. Here, Derek's voice resonated with both authority and a subtle weariness. His words, chosen with the precision of a seasoned leader, laid out the plans for the day's patrols, the strategy for defending their borders against rogue intruders, and the measures to keep their secret world hidden from prying human eyes. His betas, steady, loyal, and ever watchful, listened intently as he outlined the day's tasks, each directive a thread woven into the fabric of a community bound by a shared destiny. Yet, as the pack moved as one, united in purpose, Derek's gaze often strayed toward the silent spaces between the trees, where shadows whispered of a past filled with sacrifices and lost dreams. In these moments, the intensity of his role as alpha seemed to melt away, replaced by a profound internal conflict. There was a loneliness that clung to him like a second skin, a reminder that even the strongest among us can feel isolated by the weight of leadership. The very power that demanded respect also erected invisible walls around his heart, leaving him to navigate a labyrinth of duty and desire in solitude. Within the vibrant hum of pack life, the forest was both sanctuary and battlefield. The interplay of light and shadow served as a constant reminder of the duality in his existence. Under the glow of the full moon, the forest became a theater of raw emotion, a place where every rustle of leaves and distant howl carried the echoes of past glories and unspoken regrets. As the pack moved silently through this nocturnal realm, Derek's mind was a storm of memories. The battles fought, the sacrifices made, and the quiet moments when the price of protection became heartbreakingly clear. In the midst of these nightly vigils, there was a ritual, a gathering that transcended the practicalities of survival. The pack would circle around a roaring fire, its flames dancing in the cool night, casting shifting shadows that mirrored the ever-changing nature of their lives. In these gatherings, the unspoken bond between alpha and pack was palpable, a tether of loyalty and unyielding support. Yet even in the warmth of this communal embrace, Derek could not escape the creeping sensation of isolation. His eyes, fierce and unwavering in the light of the fire, betrayed a depth of sorrow, a longing for a connection that went beyond the stoic facade demanded by his role. As the leader of the Crescent Moon Pack, Derek was celebrated for his decisiveness and unwavering courage. His strategic mind had thwarted countless threats, ensuring that their hidden world remained untouched by the encroaching chaos of the human realm. But every victory, every tactical triumph, came at a cost. With each decision he made, he felt the pull of his own vulnerabilities, the reminders of what he had lost in the relentless pursuit of duty. It was a constant struggle between the resolute protector and the man who, in quieter moments, yearned for the kind of love and understanding that could only be found beyond the battlefield. Amid the intense gatherings and solemn meetings, there was a beauty to Derek's world, a beauty that lay in the subtle nuances of a whispered command, in the gentle rustling of fur as his pack acknowledged his leadership, and in the quiet moments of introspection that followed a hard-fought day. The forest, with its ancient secrets and timeless rhythms, bore witness to his journey. A journey marked by the contrast between the fierce responsibility of being an alpha and the tender, often hidden desire for personal solace. In the stillness of the night, as the fire's embers faded into the cool darkness, Derek would sometimes close his eyes and listen to the heartbeat of the wilderness. In that profound silence, he found both the strength to lead and the courage to confront the loneliness that lurked within. It was in those solitary moments that he acknowledged the truth. Leadership was not merely about power or authority. It was about the relentless, often painful commitment to protect those who depended on you, even when that meant sacrificing the parts of yourself that longed to be free. Thus, in the duality of his existence, between the fierce warrior and the quietly troubled soul, Derek embraced the paradox of his life. The Alpha's world was one of duty and sacrifice, but it was also a realm of beauty, mystery, and the ever-present hope that, someday, the isolation would give way to a deeper connection, a connection that might finally bridge the gap between the burden of leadership and the tender call of the heart. Under the vast canopy of the night sky, when the world was cloaked in quiet, and the only sound was the rustle of leaves and the distant call of a nocturnal creature, Derek embarked on his solitary journey. Every evening, after the responsibilities of the day had faded into silence, he would leave behind the glow of civilization to wander deep into the forest, a realm that had become both his refuge and his mirror. In these moments, under the silver gaze of the moon, he confronted the weight of his own leadership and the hidden turmoil that lay within. The forest was a world apart, where every step echoed the silent cadence of his heart. The soft, cool earth beneath his feet reminded him that despite his formidable exterior, he was still human, vulnerable, and burdened by the relentless demands of protecting his pack. As Derek moved along the winding, shadowed trails, he felt the gentle caress of the night air and the whisper of the wind, as if nature itself was trying to soothe his weary soul. Yet, the tranquility of the forest also magnified his inner conflict, forcing him to face the loneliness that came with his duty. With each stride, memories of past decisions and the sacrifices he had made for the sake of his community surfaced, like fleeting ghosts. He recalled the battles fought in the name of honor, and the moments when his choices, though necessary, left him feeling isolated. The faces of those he had lost, the comrades who had fought by his side, and the silent voices of regret merged with the shadows around him, blurring the line between past and present. In the stillness of the night, his thoughts were unrestrained, swirling into a maelstrom of doubt and longing. Derek's mind wandered to the weight of his responsibilities. As the Alpha, every decision was not merely a personal choice, but a command that resonated through the lives of every pack member. The burden of leadership was like an invisible mantle, heavy and unyielding, that he carried alone. In the dim light of the moon, he questioned whether the cost of protection was worth the sacrifice of his own inner peace. Each step along the rugged path was a reminder of the price of duty, the moments of strength that came at the expense of vulnerability, the triumphs that were shadowed by unspoken sorrow. The moon's gentle glow bathed the forest in a spectral light, illuminating the intricate patterns of leaves and branches, and in its glow, Derek saw the reflection of his own fractured soul. He longed for the freedom to be more than the stoic leader expected of him, to let down the walls he had so carefully constructed. Yet, the price of such freedom was a vulnerability that he feared might shatter the resolve of those who depended on him. The dichotomy of his existence was both beautiful and tragic. A constant battle between the desire to lead with unwavering strength and the need to embrace the tenderness of his inner self. In these quiet moments, the forest became a confessional where every rustling leaf and gentle breeze carried the weight of his inner confession. He remembered nights filled with silent tears and the ache of solitude, a loneliness that was not born out of a lack of loyalty or companionship, but from the inherent isolation of command. The Alpha was revered for his power and decisiveness, yet beneath that formidable exterior lay a heart that yearned for solace, for understanding, and for the chance to simply be human. The gentle hum of the nocturnal symphony, the distant hoot of an owl, the soft murmur of a creek, the whisper of wind through the pines, wove together with Derek's inner monologue. Every element of the night served as a poignant reminder of the delicate balance between strength and vulnerability. In the quiet solitude of the forest, he allowed himself to acknowledge his deepest fears. The fear of failing those who relied on him, the fear that his relentless burden would one day consume him, and the fear that in his quest to protect, he might lose the very essence of who he was. Yet, amid the swirling doubts and the echo of responsibilities, there was a flicker of hope, a small, persistent light that reminded him why he had chosen this path. The same forest that bore witness to his struggles also nurtured his resilience. It whispered promises of renewal with every sunrise and solace with every falling star. In that gentle interplay of darkness and light, Derek found the strength to keep moving forward, even when the road seemed insurmountable. For in every shadow, there was a glimmer of truth. In every silent moment, a chance to rediscover the parts of himself long hidden behind duty. As he continued his nightly walk, the forest embraced him like a long-lost friend, offering both the comfort of familiarity and the challenge of introspection. With each step, Derek's inner conflicts, his loneliness, his doubts, and his fierce dedication, melded into a single, resonant pulse, urging him to face the coming day with a renewed sense of purpose, even as the night gently cradled his weary spirit. Thus, beneath the watchful eyes of the moon and the enduring silence of the ancient trees, Derek's journey into the depths of his soul continued, a journey marked by the painful beauty of leadership and the quiet hope of one day finding the balance between duty and the desire to be truly free. In the soft glow of early morning, when the world was just stirring from its slumber, Derek found himself reluctantly joining his old friend James on one of their habitual walks through the dew-kissed forest. While the weight of leadership still clung to him like an ever-present shadow, James appeared as a burst of light and levity, a reminder that even the strongest alphas sometimes needed to step away from the burden of command. "Come on, Derek," James teased, his tone a mix of gentle insistence and playful sarcasm as they meandered along a winding path bordered by towering pines. "You need to loosen up. When was the last time you just enjoyed a morning without worrying about territory, patrols, or rogue threats?" Derek managed a half-smile, the tension in his shoulders easing momentarily at his friend's familiar banter. "You know I can't just switch off duty, James. There's always something that needs my attention." His voice was low, edged with the resolute weight of responsibility, a stark contrast to the carefree cadence of James's laughter. "Exactly," James exclaimed, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "That's precisely why you need a break. You're always so wrapped up in being the unyielding alpha that you forget there's a life beyond the pack meetings and the endless strategies." He paused, glancing at Derek with a knowing look. "You've got to take some time to just be you." Their conversation flowed effortlessly as they strolled beneath the arching boughs, the early sunlight filtering through the leaves in a display of golden splendor. James, ever the observant friend, noticed the subtle furrows in Derek's brow and the fleeting moments when his gaze drifted into the distance as if lost in thoughts too heavy to bear. "Hey, I've seen you do that before," James said, his tone light but laced with genuine concern. "What's on your mind? You're not just a walking command center, you know." Derek chuckled softly, a sound that resonated with both amusement and resignation. "I suppose you're right. It's just, sometimes it feels like I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. Every decision, every loss, it's all constant, unrelenting." His eyes, usually so fierce and unyielding, betrayed a quiet vulnerability that few ever saw. James clapped him on the back in a gesture both reassuring and familiar. "Look, my friend, even the mightiest warriors need to recharge their spirit now and then. You're so focused on protecting everyone else that you forget to protect yourself. Ever thought that maybe, just maybe, it's okay to let go for a moment, to laugh a little, enjoy a coffee, or even, dare I say it, dance in the rain?" The absurdity of the suggestion, paired with its underlying truth, made Derek smile broadly. "Dance in the rain, huh? I don't know if my feet are built for that sort of rebellion." "Exactly," James grinned, his voice warm and teasing. "That's the spirit. It's not about abandoning your duty. It's about remembering that you're human. You're more than just the alpha, the protector, the leader. You're Derek, the friend, the dreamer, the man who once loved simply for the joy of living." As they continued walking, the conversation shifted seamlessly between light-hearted jibes and moments of reflective silence. James recalled stories of their younger days, of misadventures, shared secrets under starlit skies, and the simple pleasures that had once filled their lives before the heavy mantle of responsibility had settled upon them. His words, though, wrapped in humor, carried a deeper wisdom, a reminder of the balance that Derek had long forgotten. "You know," James said after a pause, his tone turning more earnest, "sometimes change comes unannounced. You might think you're in control, steering your life by the rules you've set, but life has a funny way of nudging you toward something unexpected." He looked at Derek with a spark of quiet insight. "Maybe it's time to consider that. Not every battle needs to be fought head-on. Sometimes stepping back for a moment, taking a break, can reveal new paths, new possibilities." Derek's gaze softened as he listened to his friend's counsel, a blend of mirth and melancholy that resonated with the deepest parts of his soul. The forest around them, with its timeless beauty and gentle murmur, seemed to echo James's sentiment. In that serene space, the pressures of leadership and duty momentarily lost their edge, replaced by the simple, yet profound, need to live and feel. "I've always admired your ability to see past the armor," Derek admitted quietly, a note of vulnerability threading through his words. "I often wonder if I've forgotten what it means to just live, without the constant burden of command." James smiled, a look of gentle encouragement lighting his features. "Maybe it's not about forgetting, but about rediscovering. There's a whole world out there, Derek, full of beauty and surprises, and you deserve to experience it. Every small joy, every unexpected twist. Let's promise each other that we'll try to remember that, even if just for a few moments each day." As the morning matured and the forest began to awaken fully, the playful banter and heartfelt insights of James worked their quiet magic on Derek. The heaviness of leadership, the isolation that had once seemed insurmountable, now felt a little lighter, tempered by the promise of friendship and the possibility of change. In that shared journey, amidst the soft rustling of leaves and the gentle hum of nature, Derek was reminded that while he might bear the mantle of leadership, he need not do so alone. And in the wise, teasing words of his loyal friend, he found not only a respite from his burdens, but a glimpse of a future where strength and vulnerability could coexist in harmony. A future filled with both duty and the simple, undeniable joy of being truly alive. Every sunrise brought with it a relentless rhythm, a symphony of demands that defined Derek's dual existence. By day, He donned the familiar guise of a diligent college student. By night, he was the indomitable alpha, whose silent leadership resonated deep within the shadows of an ancient forest. This was the daily battleground of his life, where the ordinary and the extraordinary converged in a delicate, perpetual dance. In the early hours, as the campus stirred with the promise of a new day, Derek navigated the corridors of academia with a measured grace. His textbooks and lecture notes, filled with theories of business administration, seemed worlds apart from the visceral reality of his secret realm. Amidst the mundane chatter of students and the drone of morning lectures, Derek's mind was ever alert to the undercurrents of duty and honor that lay beneath his public persona. Each lecture, every class discussion, was a stark reminder of the balancing act he maintained. A student striving for excellence, all while harboring the weighty responsibilities of his pack. As the day progressed, the transition from academic rigors to the adrenaline-fueled intensity of rugby practice was seamless, yet profound. On the field, Derek's body moved with the power and precision of a true warrior. With every sprint, every tackle, his muscles remembered the strength honed not just for physical confrontation, but for the leadership that demanded he protect and inspire. The cheers of teammates, the rhythmic pounding of the ball, and the disciplined strategy of the game echoed the pulse of his dual life. In those moments, the roar of the crowd and the clash on the field were more than mere sporting events. They were extensions of the battlefield where his inner alpha thrived, uniting his mental fortitude with physical prowess. Yet, even as the excitement of the game subsided, another kind of challenge awaited him, a gathering that epitomized the essence of his secret world. Later that afternoon, when the fading light hinted at the impending dusk, Derek returned to the pack house. Nestled deep within the protective embrace of the forest, this sanctuary was both a command center and a haven for souls like his. The structure, with its robust wooden beams and warm flickering lights, stood as a testament to years of shared battles and unwavering loyalty. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with a blend of strategic urgency and familiar camaraderie. At the long, time-worn table, his trusted betas, each a reflection of his own dedication and resolve, awaited his direction. Lucas, the meticulous strategist, and Sarah, the unyielding enforcer, presented detailed reports of patrol schedules, recent sightings, and potential threats looming near their borders. Their voices, measured yet laden with concern, formed a steady chorus that both reassured and reminded Derek of the stakes at hand. In these meetings, every decision carried the weight of lives, a balance between safeguarding a sacred community and preserving a hidden legacy. Derek's command during these sessions was both authoritative and gentle, a rare fusion that left no doubt about his role as the alpha. His words, crisp and deliberate, wove together the practicalities of survival with the unspoken promise of protection. Yet, behind the resolute tone, lay a subtle cadence of inner conflict, a reminder that every order, every tactical adjustment, was imbued with the personal sacrifice of his own freedom. In the midst of these discussions, while plans were set in motion and strategies refined, his eyes would often wander momentarily to the flickering light of a candle or the rustle of the forest beyond the window, as if seeking solace or a glimpse of a world beyond the perpetual cycle of duty. The relentless pace of his day, from the structured halls of academia to the chaotic thrill of the rugby field, and finally, to the strategic intensity of pack meetings, mirrored the constant battle within him. There was an undeniable rhythm to his life, a cadence that oscillated between public normalcy and a hidden, powerful existence. While his classmates saw a young man dedicated to his studies and athletic pursuits, few could fathom the depths of responsibility that lay beneath that calm exterior. Derek's dual life was a continuous juggling act, where the ordinary met the extraordinary in unexpected ways, and every moment was a testament to the inner strength required to navigate such a complex existence. In these transitions, the smooth flow of time was punctuated by brief pauses, moments of introspection when the relentless march of duty slowed just enough to reveal the delicate balance between two worlds. It was in these fleeting interludes that Derek allowed himself to reflect on the nature of his path, the academic theories of leadership, the physical demands of sport, and the strategic acumen honed in pack meetings were all facets of a life lived in duality. Each facet essential, each facet a reminder that to lead was to live with constant vigilance and unwavering resolve. And so, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Derek prepared once more to step into the embrace of the night. The day's battles, both seen and unseen, merged into a singular narrative, a story of a man who straddled the line between the world of mortals and the realm of the mystic. In this dual life, every heartbeat, every whispered decision, carried with it the echoes of relentless duty and the unyielding hope for a future where balance might one day be achieved. Deep within the ancient forest, shielded by towering trees and the whisper of the wind, stood the pack house, a sturdy, time-worn sanctuary that pulsed as the very heart of the community. Constructed of weathered timber and stone, its wooden beams bore the scars and stories of countless seasons, while its rough-hewn exterior concealed an inner sanctum where duty, tradition, and loyalty converged. Inside, the air was thick with purpose. The soft crackle of a blazing hearth merged with the murmurs of strategy sessions and measured discussions. Here, in the hushed glow of lantern light and flickering candles, Derek ruled as the unwavering Alpha. The pack house was not just a building. It was a living entity, its walls echoing the triumphs and trials of generations past, its corridors a testament to the sacrifices made to protect those within. At the long, worn table in the central chamber, Derek's trusted betas gathered, their faces etched with determination and concern. Lucas, the meticulous strategist, unfurled maps and detailed patrol reports, his voice calm yet laced with urgency. Beside him, Sarah, the steadfast enforcer, added her observations of unusual movements along the borders, her tone both authoritative and cautious. Their words formed a chorus of commitment as they outlined the shifting dynamics of their territory, discussing every detail, from minor disturbances in the forest's edge to the subtle hints of an impending threat that stirred the night air. Derek listened intently, his eyes fixed on the maps and the animated expressions of his companions. Each piece of information was a thread in a vast tapestry, and he was the master weaver, tasked with interlacing strategy and instinct into a coherent plan of defense. His voice, when he spoke, was both decisive and reassuring, carrying the weight of experience and the warmth of a leader who cared deeply for every member of his pack. "We must remain vigilant," he intoned, his words deliberate and resonant. "The border patrols have reported increased activity near the eastern ridge. Lucas, I need you to coordinate with the scouts. Sarah, double-check the rotation schedule. We cannot afford even a single lapse in our defenses." His directives were clear, each command measured with a precision that left no room for ambiguity. In that moment, the pack house transformed into a war room, a crucible where plans were forged and destinies were quietly remade. As the meeting progressed, palpable tension began to build. Shadows flickered across the wooden walls, mimicking the uncertainty that lurked just beyond their borders. Derek's gaze, ever alert and unwavering, drifted momentarily to the narrow window that overlooked the dense forest. There, amidst the tangled silhouettes of ancient trees, he sensed something amiss, a subtle disturbance that hinted at external forces gathering strength in the dark. It was as if the very forest was warning him, its rustling leaves and creaking branches whispering, secrets of an unseen enemy poised to breach their sanctuary. The murmurs in the room grew quieter as the gravity of the situation set in. Lucas's fingers traced the outline of an area marked in red on the map, a region where rogue wolves had been spotted, their presence growing bolder with each passing day. Sarah's eyes narrowed as she recalled the latest sightings, her tone somber yet resolute. "These intruders are no longer mere wanderers," she said, her voice hushed. "They're organizing. They're testing our defenses." Her words sent a shiver through the assembly, a silent acknowledgement that the balance of power was shifting. Derek's mind raced, weighing the potential consequences of this emerging threat. Each decision he made now would ripple through the lives of those he swore to protect. The pack house, with its comforting solidity, suddenly felt both a bastion of strength and a fragile fortress on the brink of change. It was in these moments of quiet tension that the true cost of leadership revealed itself, a burden not only of command, but of constant, unyielding vigilance. Yet, even as uncertainty pressed in from all sides, there was an undeniable undercurrent of unity within the pack house. The shared glances between Derek and his betas spoke of unspoken trust and an unwavering commitment to their collective cause. In that space, every strategic plan, every measured order, was imbued with the hope of safeguarding a community built on blood, honor, and the unbreakable bonds of loyalty. Outside, the forest remained an enigma, a vast, shadowy expanse teeming with both ancient wisdom and modern threats. But within the walls of the pack house, amidst the earnest discussions and resolute declarations, there also burned a fierce determination. It was the kind of determination that came from knowing that every small victory in these strategy sessions was a step toward preserving a legacy that had withstood the test of time. And so, as the meeting drew to a close and the fire's embers danced quietly in the fading light, Derek reaffirmed his vow to lead with both strength and compassion. The pack house, a living monument to the unity of his people, stood as a beacon of hope against the encroaching darkness. With the echoes of strategic voices still lingering in the air and the unspoken promise of future battles, the community readied itself, knowing that, under Derek's resolute command, they would face whatever lay beyond those ancient, whispering trees. Nestled between rolling hills and dense, whispering forests, Silverwood emerged as a living tapestry of contrasts, a city where the echoes of a storied past intertwined effortlessly with the vibrant pulse of modern life. As dawn broke, soft rays of light caressed the ancient brick facades and ivy-draped walls of centuries-old buildings, while sleek new structures rose in silent defiance against the canvas of history. Here, the charm of cobblestone streets and the hum of contemporary energy blended into a mesmerizing rhythm, inviting both residents and visitors into a world that felt simultaneously timeless and alive with possibility. At first glance, Silverwood appeared to be an ordinary city, a quaint blend of old-world allure and contemporary convenience. The streets, lined with boutique cafes and artisan shops, buzzed with the chatter of local life, while the distant chime of church bells recalled a legacy steeped in tradition. Yet, beneath the surface of this seemingly serene community lay secrets, as ancient as the stones that paved its winding alleys. For Silverwood was no mere city. It was the hidden stronghold of the Crescent Moon Pack, a clandestine world where supernatural kin moved silently among unsuspecting human souls. As the sun climbed higher, casting golden hues on the time-worn facades, the city's dual nature revealed itself in subtle whispers. In the shadow of a centuries-old clock tower, where modern billboards now danced with digital light, an undercurrent of mystery pulsed through the air. There, in the interplay of light and shadow, the Crescent Moon Pack had made their home. They were the unseen guardians of Silverwood, creatures of myth and might, whose presence was as natural and enduring as the ancient trees that framed the city's borders. The allure of Silverwood lay in its delicate balance, a balance between the tangible and the ethereal, the mortal and the mystical. Its streets, though bustling with human life, concealed hidden passageways and secret meeting places where the supernatural mingled with the everyday. Here, whispers of legend merged with the modern world. A faded mural on an old stone wall might hint at tales of guardians long past, while a modern art installation in the central square captured the essence of an enigmatic history known only to those who walked in the twilight. As twilight approached, the true magic of Silverwood began to unfurl. The city transformed into an enchanted stage, illuminated by the soft glow of street lamps and the ethereal shimmer of the moon. In the quiet moments between dusk and nightfall, when the hustle of daytime life softened into gentle murmurs, the Crescent Moon Pack stirred. Their footsteps, silent and purposeful, echoed in the narrow lanes and hidden courtyards, blending seamlessly into the nocturnal symphony of crickets and rustling leaves. To the casual observer, the city's residents might see only a quaint town settling into the calm of the evening, unaware of the ancient covenant and secret world that pulsed beneath their feet. Silverwood's rich tapestry of history and modernity served as the perfect canvas for a community that straddled two realms. The city was a mirror reflecting the eternal struggle between light and shadow, truth and mystery. Its elegant blend of architectural marvels and humble abodes narrated stories of past glories and quiet resilience. In the soft luminescence of the moonlit streets, every corner, every hidden alcove, whispered of the Crescent Moon Pack's enduring legacy. A legacy guarded fiercely in silence, away from the prying eyes of the human world. Yet, amidst the ethereal beauty and serene routine of Silverwood, there lingered an undercurrent of tension, a delicate, unspoken warning that the fragile harmony between two worlds could be disrupted at any moment. As the pack navigated the secret corridors of the city, they remained ever vigilant. The modern energy of Silverwood, with its vibrant life and ceaseless progression, provided a perfect cover for an ancient, powerful presence that refused to fade into myth. The balance was precarious, a dance between the visible and the invisible, where each step could tip the scales and reveal truths long shrouded in darkness. In this enchanted city, every resident played a part in a story that spanned generations, a story where the mundane intertwined with the magical, and where the beating heart of Silverwood guarded secrets that defied the ordinary. The Crescent Moon Pack, with their silent vigilance and timeless strength, were both protectors and witnesses to this extraordinary blend of worlds. Their legacy was etched into the very soul of the city, a hidden narrative that pulsed quietly alongside the public life of Silverwood. As night finally embraced the city, Silverwood stood as a living testament to the power of duality, a place where history and modernity converged, and where secrets lay in wait for those brave enough to seek them. In the shimmering reflection of the moon on cobblestone streets, the eternal dance between human dreams and supernatural destiny continued, weaving a tale of mystery, resilience, and an unyielding spirit that promised that, beneath every surface, magic was never far away. In the dark underbelly of Silverwood's storied beauty, an insidious threat began to stir, a threat born not of chaos, but of those who had been cast aside. The rogue wolves, outcasts who had once been part of the order, were now emerging from the shadows. Their presence was subtle at first, like a whisper among the rustling leaves. But with each passing night, their numbers grew, and their intentions became increasingly clear. These renegade wolves, no longer bound by the ancient codes of loyalty and tradition, challenged everything that the Crescent Moon Pack had fought to uphold. They prowled the margins of the city, slipping through the hidden corridors of Silverwood as if drawn by an irresistible, mysterious force. Their eyes glowed with a wild, untamed intensity, a reflection of deep-seated anger, and a desire to reclaim what they believed had been stolen from them. In their relentless pursuit of freedom, they threatened to unravel the delicate tapestry of order carefully woven by Derek and his loyal pack. The rogue intrusions were like ripples in a tranquil pond. At first, there were only fleeting sightings, a shadow darting past an alley, a low growl echoing in the distance, a lone wolf seen at the edge of the forest, where the city's light faded into darkness. But soon, these brief encounters evolved into something more sinister. Patrol reports began to mention clusters of rogue wolves congregating near the eastern and northern perimeters of Silverwood. Their movements were coordinated, almost as if they communicated silently, plotting to test the defenses of the Crescent Moon Pack. Inside the pack house, tension simmered as Derek and his betas pored over maps and intelligence reports. Lucas's Meticulous notes and Sarah's guarded observations painted a picture of a threat that was not only growing in boldness, but also in purpose. The intruders were no longer aimless wanderers. They were organizing, forming a cohesive unit determined to challenge the established order. The rogue wolves' incursions into Silverwood were not mere acts of rebellion. They were calculated strikes meant to unsettle the balance of power. As discussions unfolded in the hushed, dimly lit rooms of the pack house, Derek couldn't help but wonder about the magnetic pull that Silverwood held over these outcasts. What was it about this city, its blend of ancient mystique and modern vitality, that drew them in? Was there an energy hidden in its cobblestone streets and ivy-covered facades that called to the wild souls of these rogue wolves, promising them a new beginning, or perhaps a chance to reclaim a long-forgotten heritage? The questions gnawed at him, adding an extra layer of uncertainty to an already precarious situation. Outside the pack house, the city itself became a silent battleground. By day, Silverwood's residents went about their lives, blissfully unaware of the simmering tensions at its fringes. But as night fell, the true nature of the threat emerged. In the quiet hours, when the glow of street lamps mingled with the silver light of the moon, rogue wolves were seen moving with purpose through the narrow, labyrinthine alleys. Their silent, predatory movements suggested they were not merely scavengers of the dark, but rather hunters with a clear objective. They prowled not only for survival, but for retribution, a reclamation of a past that had cast them out. The danger posed by these intruders was twofold. For the Crescent Moon Pack, each incursion was a direct challenge to their authority and a threat to the safety of their community. The rogue wolves sought to undermine the structure that Derek had so painstakingly built, a structure founded on loyalty, mutual respect, and an unyielding commitment to protecting Silverwood from external perils. For the city itself, the presence of these wild, unbridled creatures added an element of unpredictability. The delicate balance between the human world and the supernatural realm was at risk of being shattered, exposing both to dangers they were not prepared to face. Every rustle in the undergrowth, every echoing howl in the night, carried with it the question: what did the rogue wolves truly seek? Were they driven solely by a desire for revenge, or was there a deeper, more enigmatic purpose behind their actions? Some believed that the city of Silverwood, with its rich history and hidden energies, held secrets that even the established packs had not yet uncovered. To the rogues, Silverwood might be a beacon, a place where the ancient ties between nature and the supernatural could be rekindled, where they could reclaim a legacy that had long been denied to them. As the nights grew longer and the sightings of the rogue wolves became more frequent, an undercurrent of dread began to permeate the air. The once calm borders of Silverwood now pulsed with a sense of imminent danger, as if the very fabric of the city was being tested. In the silence between heartbeats, the pack prepared for what could be an all-out clash, a confrontation that would not only decide the fate of the Crescent Moon Pack, but also determine the future of Silverwood itself. In these uncertain times, every member of the pack, every resident of Silverwood, felt the weight of impending change. The rogue threat was no longer a distant rumor. It was a palpable menace, one that raised questions about destiny, loyalty, and the unseen forces that shaped their world. And as the moon cast its pale light over a city caught between two realms, the echo of a single, unanswered question resonated through the night. What will happen when the wild, untamed spirit of the rogues meets the disciplined order of the pack? As twilight deepened over Silverwood, an almost imperceptible shift began to stir beneath its familiar, placid exterior. The city, with its enchanting blend of historic charm and modern vibrancy, continued its daily dance of routine. Shopkeepers closing their doors, street lamps flickering on in anticipation of the coming night. Yet, an unsettling undercurrent pulsed beneath the surface, whispering of looming change. Derek felt it before anyone else did. In the quiet moments between dusk and full darkness, when the city's clamor softened into a hushed murmur, he sensed an intangible tension, a palpable shift in the air. As he stood on the edge of the pack house balcony, his eyes swept over. Silverwood's cobblestone streets and ivy-draped buildings bathed in the soft glow of lamplight. There was an eerie serenity in the scene, as if the city itself was holding its breath, unaware of the gathering storm just beyond its borders. In May, that stillness, every rustle of wind and every distant sound of nocturnal life took on a new significance. It was as though nature was conspiring to signal an approaching change, an imminent disturbance that would shatter the delicate balance between order and chaos. Derek's heart quickened as he recalled the recent patrol reports and furtive whispers among his betas, subtle hints of rogue wolves assembling, of shadows moving with calculated intent along the city's periphery. The quiet beauty of Silverwood, so carefully preserved over centuries, now seemed to cradle secrets that defied its tranquil facade. Beneath the shimmering reflections in the river and the soft hum of nighttime traffic, there lay a destiny that had been slowly unfolding. There were moments when Derek could almost hear the ancient call of the wild, a summons woven into the fabric of the forest surrounding Silverwood, beckoning the outcasts and renegades toward their inevitable confrontation. It was a call that resonated deep within him, stirring memories of past clashes and the unyielding duty to safeguard his people. The calm, serene exterior of the city was the perfect mask, concealing the turbulent forces gathering in the darkness. In the quiet of the evening, as the final hues of sunset faded into a velvety indigo, Derek retreated to his private study in the pack house. There, amidst worn leather-bound journals and maps marked with secret routes, he allowed himself a moment of introspection. His mind raced with possibilities, visions of an impending clash where the rogue wolves would emerge from the shadows to challenge the long-standing order of the pack. His thoughts swirled with the inevitability of destiny. Every beat of his heart echoed with the knowledge that peace, however fragile, was on the verge of being broken. Outside, Silverwood carried on in apparent tranquility. Residents strolled along the illuminated sidewalks, lost in their own concerns, oblivious to the undercurrent of dread that haunted the fringes of their city. The juxtaposition of the human world's mundane routine and the hidden, primal drama of the supernatural realm intensified the tension. Every serene smile and casual greeting in the streets now seemed to mask a deeper uncertainty, an unspoken acknowledgement that something monumental was poised to occur. As Derek pondered the duality of his world, he recalled the wisdom of his ancestors, whose legends spoke of cyclical tides of peace and conflict. The idea that every calm moment was merely the precursor to a fierce, transformative storm resonated within him. Was this quiet interlude simply a deceptive calm, a brief respite before a force of nature swept through Silverwood, forever altering its destiny? The thought sent a shiver down his spine, a mixture of apprehension and anticipation that left him both fearful and resolutely determined. In the distance, the forest loomed like a dark sentinel, its dense ancient trees standing as mute witnesses to the inexorable march of fate. There, in the undulating shadows, the rogue wolves gathered, silent, relentless, and driven by a purpose that remained shrouded in mystery. Their presence was an omen, a stark contrast to the orderly rhythm of pack life that Derek had fought so hard to maintain. Each moment of stillness in the city seemed to accentuate the growing clamor of a hidden force, a force that would soon erupt into a confrontation capable of fracturing the very foundation of his world. Derek's gaze drifted back to the cityscape, his mind alight with questions that refused easy answers. What had stirred these renegades from their long dormancy? Why did Silverwood, with all its gentle allure and enduring secrets, call so irresistibly to them? And most pressing of all, how could he, as the steadfast alpha, rally his pack to face a threat that seemed to arise from the very depths of destiny itself? In that charged moment, with the moon rising high and casting long, silver shadows over the city, Derek resolved that he would be ready. The calm before the storm was but a brief interlude, a necessary pause that allowed him to gather his strength, sharpen his strategies, and prepare for the inevitable clash that would test the limits of loyalty, power, and the very essence of what it meant to lead. And as Silverwood's quiet beauty continued to mask a brewing tempest, the silent promise of upheaval lingered in the cool night air, a promise that the peaceful facade was fragile, and that soon the true forces of fate would rise to reshape everything. On a crisp golden morning that hinted at the promise of change, the familiar chime of the coffee shop door beckoned Derek once more. The cozy cafe, tucked away on a quiet street lined with ancient oaks and softly glowing lampposts, seemed to exist in its own timeless bubble, a haven where the mundane mingled with the mysterious. It was here that fate had woven its subtle threads, drawing him to a moment that would alter the course of his carefully guarded world. As Derek stepped inside, the warm aroma of freshly ground coffee and cinnamon immediately enveloped him, a comforting embrace that contrasted sharply with the cool, shadowed intensity of the forest he so often navigated. The interior was a gentle blend of rustic charm and modern simplicity. Exposed brick walls, soft lighting, and worn wooden tables lent the space an inviting, almost nostalgic quality. Here, amidst the hum of quiet conversations and the rhythmic clatter of porcelain cups, his senses awakened to a presence that was both familiar and utterly beguiling. Across the room, by a large window through which the morning light cascaded in gentle beams, she sat alone. Her silhouette was framed by the delicate interplay of sunlight and shadow, the soft glow accentuating the contours of her face. Her long, dark hair spilled in graceful waves over her shoulders, catching hints of amber and chestnut as it moved, with the rhythm of her quiet breaths. But it was her eyes, those deep, distant eyes, that held him captive. They seemed to mirror a world of secrets, each glance a silent story of loss, longing, and an unspoken resilience. Derek felt an undeniable magnetic pull, as if the very air around her vibrated with a mystery he yearned to unravel. There was something ineffably familiar in her gaze, a quiet sorrow intertwined with a glimmer of hope that resonated deep within his soul. The gentle curve of her smile, fleeting and enigmatic, hinted at a past laden with untold stories, a past that perhaps held the key to unlocking not only her mysteries, but also a deeper part of himself that had long been buried under the mantle of leadership. Stepping closer, he took a seat at a table not too far away, deliberately positioning himself within her periphery. As he sat there, the cafe's soft background music and murmured conversations seemed to fade into insignificance, replaced by the steady cadence of his own heartbeat. Each moment stretched out as if time itself was holding its breath, waiting for the delicate spark of fate to ignite. The scene was almost cinematic in its intimacy, a quiet meeting between two souls on the brink of discovery. As he observed her, Derek noted every subtle detail. The way her eyes occasionally drifted towards the window, as if seeking solace in the passing world outside. The gentle manner in which her fingers traced the rim of her coffee cup, and the wistful tilt of her head that suggested she was lost in thoughts far beyond the present. It was as though she carried an entire universe within her, a universe of memories, dreams, and perhaps even hidden pain. In that quiet space, Derek found himself irresistibly drawn, not just to her beauty, but to the enigma that she embodied. Questions swirled in his mind like autumn leaves in a gentle breeze. Who was she? What stories lay behind those captivating eyes? Had she, like him, experienced the profound solitude that accompanies a life of unspoken burdens? The magnetic allure of her mystery ignited within him a desire to reach out, to bridge the chasm of silence that separated them. Yet, for all his inner yearning, he hesitated, aware that some stories were woven with delicate threads that required careful, respectful unraveling. The soft murmur of the barista calling out an order punctuated the silence, momentarily drawing his attention to the present. Yet, even as the world around him resumed its ordinary rhythm, his thoughts remained fixed on the woman by the window. Every sensory detail, the rich, inviting scent of the coffee, The warm glow of the morning light, the gentle hum of the cafe, conspired to heighten the intensity of that fateful encounter. It was as if the universe had orchestrated this precise moment, placing her exactly where he needed her to be. Derek's internal struggle was palpable. The responsibilities of his role as an alpha, the burden of leadership, and the relentless demands of his dual existence all seemed to momentarily recede in the face of this inexplicable pull. Here, in this humble coffee shop, he was no longer the unyielding protector or the decisive leader. He was simply a man, open to the possibility of connection and the thrill of the unknown. As he sat quietly, his gaze never straying far from her, a sense of anticipation began to build. It was as if the calm ambiance of the cafe was a prelude to a transformative moment, one that promised to unravel mysteries, challenge old boundaries, and perhaps even mend parts of his heart that had long been left untouched. The encounter, though still shrouded in uncertainty, beckoned him to take a step into a realm where destiny and desire intertwined, where every whispered question and lingering look held the promise of change. In that suspended moment, as the gentle light danced on her features and the world around them blurred into an intimate vignette, Derek silently vowed that he would discover the secrets behind those captivating eyes. Whatever her past held, he sensed that it was intricately linked to his own, a shared narrative waiting to be written in the spaces between chance meetings and whispered revelations. And so, with the soft murmur of the cafe as their silent witness, the fateful encounter began to weave its delicate magic, setting the stage for a story that would transcend the ordinary and resonate with the timeless allure of destiny. In the Satien, days that followed that fateful morning, Derek found himself returning to the coffee shop time and again, as if drawn by an invisible tether to the woman behind the window. Each encounter deepened the unspoken connection between them, a magnetic pull that defied logic and reason, leaving him both exhilarated and conflicted. Whenever he saw her, time itself seemed to slow. The usual clamor of everyday life faded into a soft murmur, and every moment around her turned into a carefully composed scene in a timeless film. Her presence transformed the ordinary into something extraordinary. The scent of freshly brewed coffee grew richer. The gentle glow of morning light became almost surreal, and the distant hum of conversation felt like an intimate symphony composed just for them. In those moments, Derek was not the alpha with an iron resolve or the relentless leader burdened by responsibility. He was simply a man caught in the throes of an ineffable attraction. Yet, beneath this mesmerizing allure, lay a storm of internal conflict. Each time Derek sought her out, his heart pounded with both anticipation and uncertainty. He struggled with a growing obsession, a yearning to understand who she was and the secret history that shimmered behind her soulful eyes. Was it mere chance that they kept crossing paths? Or was destiny quietly at work, weaving their lives together in an intricate tapestry of fate? The questions circled in his mind relentlessly, echoing like a refrain he couldn't silence. During quiet moments alone, when the weight of his dual existence seemed almost too heavy to bear, he would replay those brief exchanges over and over, in his thoughts. The fleeting smile she offered, the delicate way her fingers brushed against the rim of her coffee cup, and the subtle shift in her gaze whenever their eyes met. All of these fragments coalesced into a mosaic of desire and mystery. Each encounter left him craving more, compelled by an irresistible need to delve deeper into the enigma that she embodied. And with every repeated visit, the spark of curiosity grew into a blazing fire of longing, so potent that it threatened to consume his reason. This unspoken connection was not just a mere attraction. It felt predestined, as though their souls had met long before their paths converged in that cozy cafe. Derek often wondered if the same unseen force that had steered him toward her had orchestrated the twists and turns of his own life. In the stillness of the night, while patrolling the borders of his territory or walking the silent forest trails, his thoughts would drift back to her. In these reflective moments, The fierce responsibilities of being an alpha would momentarily dissolve, replaced by a tender vulnerability that left him questioning everything he once believed about fate and duty. He began to notice details that most would overlook, the way her eyes would soften ever so slightly when she caught his glance, or the subtle, almost imperceptible way she seemed to lean in, as if inviting him to bridge the gap between them. These quiet signals, laden with unspoken promises, stirred a hope within him, a hope that perhaps there was more to life than the unending cycle of leadership and sacrifice. He started to see in her a mirror of his own hidden desires, the yearning for connection, for understanding, and for the chance to let go of the constant armor that protected him from the world. But as his fixation deepened, so did his internal struggle. Every time he approached her, a torrent of questions would surge forth. Who was she really? What secrets lay buried in the depths of her past? And how did they intertwine with his own destiny? These questions, both beautiful and agonizing, left him restless at night. The intensity of his obsession was a double-edged sword. It fueled his desire to unravel her mysteries while also exposing him to the vulnerability he had long guarded against. In his heart, a battle raged, the call of the unknown, warring against the safety of his carefully constructed world. This inner turmoil was most palpable in the moments after their encounters. Alone, with the muted hum of the city in the background, Derek would sit quietly, his thoughts a whirlwind of longing and apprehension. The slow passage of time in these interludes became both a blessing and a curse, each second stretching into an eternity as he tried to piece together the fragments of what might be a fated connection. His mind, usually so sharp and decisive when leading his pack, now wandered into a realm of uncertain possibilities and poetic dreams. The more he sought her out, the more the pull became irresistible. It was as if every meeting was a puzzle piece, each one hinting at a larger picture yet to be revealed, a picture where their destinies were intertwined in ways he had never dared to imagine. With every unanswered question, his heart whispered of promises and potential, inviting him to step into a future that might shatter the boundaries of his current reality. In that delicate balance between yearning and restraint, between the magnetic allure and the burden of uncertainty, Derek stood at a crossroads. The unspoken connection with the mysterious woman was both a beacon of hope and a source of profound inner conflict. And as he continued to navigate this emotional labyrinth, the realization slowly dawned on him. Sometimes the most powerful forces in life are those that cannot be easily explained or tamed. They simply are, destined to shape our lives in ways both beautiful and unpredictable. The next morning, as dawn painted Silverwood in soft hues of pink and gold, Derek felt an unfamiliar courage stirring within him. The memory of that fateful encounter had grown into an irresistible longing, a yearning that now demanded action. No longer content with mere glances and fleeting moments, he resolved to break the ice and bridge the unspoken distance between them. Stepping into the same inviting cafe, where the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the gentle murmur of early patrons, Derek's eyes immediately searched for her familiar silhouette. She was already there, seated by the window, bathed in the gentle morning light that lent her an ethereal glow. In that instant, every second seemed to elongate, the world around him fading into a hushed background as his heart pounded with anticipation. Determination mingled with nerves as Derek approached the counter. His mind raced with thoughts of how best to express the depth of his silent admiration without the clumsy interruption of words that might shatter the delicate spell. Instead, he crafted a plan, a bold yet graceful gesture. He would send a message through the medium of a note, a small token of his interest that could speak volumes where his voice had faltered. With steady hands, he scribbled a few carefully, chosen words on a pristine card, a simple invitation to share a moment, an unspoken promise of understanding. His handwriting, neat and deliberate, bore the quiet confidence of someone who knew that sometimes the softest gestures could evoke the strongest responses. Folding the note with precision, he handed it discreetly to a friendly waiter, giving a brief, reassuring nod as if to say, "This is important." Then, with the note set in motion, Derek returned to his seat by the window, his eyes fixed on her. He watched intently as the waiter made his way across the room. Every movement seemed amplified, every heartbeat a countdown to a fate-altering moment. The seconds stretched like a slow, cinematic reel. The soft clink of porcelain and the low murmur of conversation faded into insignificance, replaced by the palpable tension of expectancy. Finally, the waiter reached her table. In that fragile instant, as she unfolded the note, the world seemed to hold its breath. Derek's gaze never left her, and as she read the message, something shifted. Her eyes widened in surprise, a flicker of wonder and curiosity that danced across her features like sunlight on water. A small, tentative smile curved her lips, a silent acknowledgement that the message had touched her in a way words alone could not. It was as if, in that quiet exchange, a door had been opened to a realm of possibilities, one that promised a connection deeper than chance encounters. Unable to resist, Derek raised his cup in a silent, confident toast, a private celebration of this small yet transformative victory. His eyes glimmered with hope and determination, mirroring the unspoken promise that lingered in the space between them. This was no ordinary moment. It was the turning point of their fated meeting, a moment where destiny had nudged him to step beyond the confines of his guarded existence. For her part, she glanced around the room, perhaps searching for the origin of the note, and for a fleeting moment, their eyes met. In that brief connection, the mystery of the previous days melted into an electric clarity. The exchange was wordless, but profound, an acknowledgement of an emerging bond that transcended the boundaries of their separate worlds. It was as if the universe itself had conspired to bring them together, each subtle gesture a sign of something far greater than either had dared to imagine. The bold gesture had shattered the fragile silence that had defined their previous encounters. Now, the air between them was charged with a new energy, a promise of conversations yet to be had, secrets waiting to be shared, and the possibility of rewriting both of their destinies. In that instant, the cafe transformed from a familiar setting into a stage where the first act of a grand unfolding romance was set in motion. Derek felt a surge of both relief and exhilaration. The decision to risk vulnerability had not only broken the ice, but had also set him on a path toward a future filled with unknown potential. The confident toast, the subtle smile, and the quiet communion of eyes had all coalesced into a moment of undeniable magic, a moment that would forever alter the trajectory of his life. As the morning light continued to grow brighter, it illuminated not just the cozy interior of the cafe, but also the new chapter that was just beginning to write itself in the spaces between whispered promises and shared glances. In that bold, daring gesture, Derek had taken the first step towards unraveling the mysteries of her past, and perhaps towards discovering parts of himself he had long kept hidden. The note, simple yet profound, had done more than deliver a message. It had woven a new thread into the intricate tapestry of their intertwined destinies, hinting at a future where love, fate, and the courage to take a leap of faith might just redefine everything they once knew. Over the following weeks, the quiet coffee shop rendezvous evolved into something more. A series of stolen moments that allowed both Derek and her to begin weaving a tapestry of shared intimacy and whispered secrets. Their meetings grew frequent, each one unwrapping a delicate layer of vulnerability that neither had expected to reveal. As they sat together in the soft glow of early evening, the world outside seemed to pause, leaving them suspended in a quiet, almost sacred space where only their unspoken truths existed. One rainy afternoon, as droplets traced ephemeral patterns on the window pane, she hesitated before speaking. "Sometimes, I wonder if I've been running from my past, or if it's been chasing me all along," she murmured, her eyes distant yet intent. Her voice, soft as a secret, hinted at wounds too deep to fully expose. Derek listened intently, his gaze fixed on the delicate tremor in her expression. A flicker of pain, masked by cautious hope. "I know what you mean," he replied, his tone gentle, yet laden with his own internal struggle. Fate has a way of weaving its story, even when we try to escape it. I sometimes feel trapped by the very path I've chosen, as if every step forward is both a duty and a question I'm too afraid to answer. His admission resonated with a raw honesty, the kind that spoke of endless nights filled with silent contemplation and the constant burden of leadership. Their conversation drifted from the trivial to the profound, each word an invitation to share a part of themselves. In these fragile exchanges, fragments of her painful past began to surface. She recalled memories of a family lost too soon, a sorrow that still clung to her like a shadow. "I remember the sound of laughter that once filled my home," she whispered, and then the silence that followed when everything changed. Her voice wavered, and in that moment, Derek felt the weight of her loss as if it were his own. "I've always believed that our scars tell a story," Derek offered, his eyes reflecting both empathy and his own inner conflict. "They remind us that we once loved, once hoped, even when life demanded so much sacrifice." His words, though measured, carried the emotional residue of countless battles fought within his own soul. The dichotomy of his existence, as both protector and a man longing for connection, was laid bare in the quiet cadence of his confession. As the days turned into evenings, the intensity of their shared glances grew. In a secluded corner of a dimly lit park, they would sit on an old wooden bench, the distant hum of the city blending with the soft rustle of autumn leaves. There, amidst the shifting shadows, they exchanged not just words, but also the unspoken, language of shared pain and tentative hope. Every subtle gesture, a touch on the hand, a knowing look, spoke volumes about the uncharted territory they were navigating together. Yet, beneath the surface of their burgeoning closeness, questions lingered like silent specters. Derek's mind was a battlefield of conflicting emotions. He wondered, as he often did in the quiet moments before sleep, if fate had conspired to bring them together, or if their meeting was merely a fleeting illusion, a spark that might one day be extinguished by the harsh realities of their worlds. What if this connection is just a beautiful mirage? He asked himself, the uncertainty gnawing at him. And still, in his heart, the desire to know her deeper than the visible pain, to unravel the mystery of her past, burned with an intensity that defied his better judgment. During one particularly serene evening, as they strolled along a lamplit avenue, she paused and looked up at the night sky. "Do you ever feel like there are answers hidden in the stars?" she queried softly, her tone reflective and wistful. "Maybe our destinies are written somewhere beyond our reach, waiting for us to decipher the signs." Her question hung in the air, mingling with the cool night breeze, and left Derek momentarily speechless. It was a question that resonated with the core of his own doubts and hopes, a poignant reminder that some mysteries were meant to remain unsolved, at least for a while. Their dialogue, rich with emotional nuance and fragile confessions, became the cornerstone of a deepening bond. Each meeting left them both a little more exposed, a little more open to the possibility that, in sharing their burdens, they might also share a future. And though there were moments when the past loomed large, when the shadows of lost families and broken dreams threatened to overtake the tender new light of their connection, there was also an undeniable promise in the way their eyes met, as if silently affirming that some bonds were fated to transcend even the deepest wounds. As they parted that night beneath a canopy of glittering stars, neither dared to fully articulate the myriad questions that lingered between them. Instead, they chose to let their silence speak, a mutual, unspoken agreement that their journey was just beginning, and that the answers, as elusive as they might be, would reveal themselves in time. In that delicate balance of intimacy and mystery, their shared glances and unanswered questions became the prelude to a story of hope, resilience, and the quiet, relentless pull of destiny. In a quiet corner of a moonlit park, beneath the soft hum of nighttime whispers and the gentle glow of street lamps, Selena finally allowed herself to open the door to memories long kept hidden. As she and Derek found themselves seated on an old bench, the world around them melted away, leaving only the raw, aching silence of shared vulnerability. The air was cool and expectant, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and distant rain, a quiet invitation to speak truths that had been buried for far too long. For a long moment, Selena simply stared into the darkness, her eyes reflecting a pain that words could scarcely capture. Then, in a voice both tremulous and determined, she began to unravel the tapestry of her past. "I lost my family when I was just a teenager," she whispered, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the fragile intimacy of the moment. One moment, everything was filled with laughter and warmth, and the next, everything was gone. Her tone, soft and heavy with sorrow, wove through the cool night air, mingling with the rustle of the leaves and the distant murmur of the city. Derek listened intently, his gaze never wavering from hers. In that silent communion, every word from Selena carried the weight of years of loss, a haunting melody of memories that resonated with the loneliness and the relentless struggle of survival. "How did you manage to keep going?" he asked gently, his voice a mix of empathy and genuine curiosity. "When the world takes so much, what makes you hold on?" His question hung in the air, tender and probing, as if inviting her to share, not just the sorrow, but also the reasons behind her enduring hope. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears as she replied, "I don't know if it was hope or something else. Maybe it was fate. Sometimes I feel like my life was never meant to be ordinary. The pain, the loss, they shaped me in ways I can't fully explain. Every scar, every tear, feels like a marker of something I was destined to survive." Her words, laced with both resignation and a flicker of defiance, evoked questions of destiny that seemed to echo Derek's own silent musings about the path he had chosen. As the conversation deepened, Selena revealed more fragments of her story, an inexplicable series of events that led to her family's sudden disappearance, moments of terror when she felt utterly alone, and the lingering question of why she had been spared from a fate that had claimed so many around her. "Sometimes I lie awake at night, wondering if everything that happened was part of a larger plan, if my survival was meant to lead me here. To you," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. The vulnerability in her tone resonated deeply with Derek, stirring a recognition that their fates might be more intertwined than either had dared to imagine. Derek's own inner conflict, always hidden behind a mask of resolute leadership, surfaced as he grappled with the enormity of her revelations. Here was a woman whose life had been marked by tragedy and resilience, whose every loss seemed to be a stepping stone on a path paved by destiny. In that moment, the mysterious connection between them deepened, enriched by the echoes of the past and the unanswered questions of survival. "I've always believed," he said slowly, choosing his words with care, "that the scars we bear are not just reminders of what we've lost, but also of what we're meant to become. Perhaps our pain has a purpose, a secret message from the universe that we're still meant to fulfill." Selena regarded him with eyes that held both sorrow and a tentative hope. "Do you ever think," she asked, hesitating as if afraid to disturb the fragile equilibrium of their shared silence, "that our lives, with all their heartbreak, are leading us to something greater? That maybe, just maybe, our paths were destined to cross so that we could find solace in each other's strength?" Her question, laden with emotion and mystery, sent a ripple of understanding through Derek. It was as if, in the soft cadence of her inquiry, the very fabric of destiny had revealed a glimpse of its design, a design that intricately wove their lives together despite the odds. The cool night air, heavy with the scent of impending rain and the soft murmur of distant voices, became the backdrop for their silent pact. A mutual recognition that while the past was filled with darkness, it also held the promise of light yet to come. In that moment, both Derek and Selena understood that their journey was far from over. Their shared revelations were not an end, but a beginning, a delicate step towards unraveling the deeper mysteries of their intertwined destinies. As the conversation tapered into a thoughtful silence, the questions lingered in the space between them. What was the true meaning of survival when marked by such profound loss? Could their separate tragedies converge into a shared destiny, one that would allow them to heal and transform their pain into strength? These unspoken questions hung in the air, shimmering like distant stars, promises of answers yet to be discovered, hints of a future where the echoes of the past might guide them towards a destiny neither could have imagined alone. And so, beneath the canopy of a star-studded sky, their hearts, heavy with memories and fragile hope, beat in unison. The night wrapped them in its soft embrace, each whispered confession and tender glance a step closer to unlocking the secrets that fate had so carefully concealed. A sudden, shattering crash of reality broke through the fragile cocoon of their quiet evening. In the midst of their intimate conversation, as the night embraced them in its soft, familiar lullaby, a violent disruption tore through the silence, a deafening noise that sent shockwaves through the delicate space they had so carefully built. Without warning, the door to the secluded cafe burst open, and a shadowy figure stormed in. The intruder, an armed stranger with eyes burning like coals in the dim light, moved with a predatory urgency that froze time. The stranger's presence was as jarring as it was menacing, his weapon glinting ominously under the harsh overhead lights. In an instant, the warm, inviting ambiance of the cafe transformed into a chaotic battleground where danger reigned supreme. Selena's hand flew to her chest as a cold wave of fear crashed over her, the serene calm that had cradled her secrets and whispered of fate shattered in a heartbeat. Her eyes, wide with terror, met Derek's, and in that frozen moment, the unspoken bond between them ignited a fierce, protective fire. Derek's expression hardened, every fiber of his being transforming as the surge of primal rage took hold. A raw, visceral energy that demanded to be unleashed in the face of imminent threat. The intruder barked orders, his voice harsh and devoid of compassion, as he advanced toward Selena. His movements were swift and deliberate, each step echoing like a drumbeat of impending violence. For a fraction of a second, the cafe seemed to hold its breath. The murmur of other patrons fell silent. Even the clink of coffee cups was stilled by the shock of the unfolding crisis. In that charged instant, Derek pushed aside any remnants of the tender connection they had nurtured. His alpha instincts surged forward, an uncontrollable force of nature driven by both duty and the raw desire to protect. The air around him crackled with energy, and every detail, the glint of determination in his eyes, the tense set of his jaw, the barely contained fury radiating from his core, spoke of an imminent, violent response. He moved as if propelled by a power beyond mortal limits, a dark, primal rhythm that left no room for hesitation. The armed stranger lunged forward, and time itself fractured into a series of sharp, vivid snapshots. Derek intercepted the attacker with a force that was both swift and brutal. The collision of bodies, the sound of shattering glass, and the thud of heavy footsteps created a symphony of chaos that reverberated throughout the space. The struggle was fierce and unrelenting, a raw clash between calculated malice and the ferocious will to protect. In the melee, Derek's eyes burned with a golden intensity, his voice rising into a guttural growl that sent shivers through the onlookers. Amidst the violent scuffle, Selena found herself trapped in a nightmare she had never imagined, paralyzed by fear. Her mind raced while her heart pounded against her ribcage. The familiar, comforting cadence of their recent intimacy was replaced by the jarring discord of impending violence. Her hands trembled, and her breath came in rapid, panicked gasps as she tried to comprehend the sudden intrusion into her once safe sanctuary. Every instinct screamed for her to flee, yet something, perhaps a deep-seated need to witness the unraveling of fate, kept her rooted in place. As Derek's forceful intervention escalated, the armed stranger momentarily faltered, his eyes widening in shock at the Alpha's unyielding fury. But the attacker was not defeated. His presence remained a looming threat, a dark omen that promised more to come. In the chaos, fragments of shouted commands, the metallic clash of weapon against armor, and the echoing footfalls of an oncoming crowd filled the air, intensifying the terror of the moment. Just when it seemed that the battle might reach its violent crescendo, a sudden piercing sound, a scream that sliced through the tumult, cut through the noise. Selena's cry, raw and filled with agony, resonated with a depth of despair that sent an icy shiver through Derek's soul. It was the sound of a promise broken, of innocence caught in the merciless grip of fate. In that excruciating instant, the conflict reached a perilous tipping point, leaving everyone suspended on the edge of an uncertain future. As the struggle continued, Derek managed to force the attacker back, momentarily pinning him against the worn floor of the cafe. The dim lighting threw long, sinister shadows across the scene, accentuating the violent ballet unfolding before every terrified eye. Yet, even as Derek's grip tightened and his determination surged, the atmosphere remained thick with questions. Who was this stranger, and what dark purpose drove him to shatter their peaceful existence? Had he been sent by a hidden enemy, or was he merely a harbinger of the chaos already brewing beyond Silverwood's borders? The scene was poised on the brink of transformation, every heartbeat a countdown to an outcome that no one present could predict. The confrontation, raw and unyielding, left the audience with a lingering, piercing question. What would come next? As the cafe held its collective breath and the violent clash continued in a blur of motion and emotion, the fragile veneer of normalcy had been irrevocably broken, and in that critical moment, the seeds of a new, uncertain destiny had been sown, leaving everyone to wonder if this violent intrusion was merely the beginning of a much larger storm. In the eerie calm that followed the violent intrusion, time seemed to slow to a painful crawl. The cafe, once filled with the soft murmur of everyday life, now lay in a heavy, suffocating silence. Derek, still trembling with the raw surge of his alpha instincts, stood amidst the disarray, a figure transformed in the aftermath of battle. His eyes, once a steady beacon of command, now burned with an unspoken intensity as he surveyed the wreckage of shattered glass and scattered chairs. Every muscle in his body throbbed with adrenaline, and yet a deeper, more unsettling chill seeped into his soul, a cold reminder that the attack was far from a mere physical altercation. It was a rupture in the fragile veneer of his world. Across the room, Selena huddled in a shadowed corner, her face pale and eyes wide with unspoken terror. The violent chaos that had erupted only moments ago left her in a state of disbelief, as if the very ground beneath her had betrayed its promise of safety. Tears, unbidden and raw, traced down her cheeks as she tried to comprehend the surreal horror of the encounter. Her heart pounded with a desperate rhythm, a chaotic symphony of fear, confusion, and an overwhelming need for answers that seemed just out of reach. As the adrenaline slowly ebbed, Derek's body began to tremble, not from the physical exertion of the fight, but from an internal tumult that he had long suppressed. His mind, a battlefield of conflicting emotions, churned with thoughts of duty and a gnawing isolation. The force of his transformation had been instantaneous, a surge of primal energy that allowed him to repel the attacker, yet left him questioning the very nature of his own power. Was this transformation the true cost of his role as an alpha? Was the protective instinct that he wielded so fiercely now unraveling the quiet corners of his soul? In that fragile aftermath, Derek's eyes met Selena's from across the room. In her gaze, he saw a mirror of his own inner chaos, the terror of vulnerability, the shock of an unforeseen loss, and a deep-seated yearning for truth in a moment where answers were scarce. She clutched a trembling cup of cold coffee, as if seeking solace from the familiar aroma now tainted by the scent of fear and violence. For Selena, the attack was not just a physical violation of her sanctuary. It was an intrusion that shattered her fragile trust in a world that had always promised safety. Slowly, the tumultuous noise of the aftermath settled into a heavy silence. In that stillness, every unanswered question reverberated with an almost palpable weight. Derek's thoughts swirled. What had driven this stranger to breach their quiet haven? Was this an isolated incident, or a harbinger of darker forces looming beyond Silverwood's borders? And most haunting of all, how much of his own soul had been altered by the violence he had just unleashed? For Selena, the internal chaos was equally relentless. She felt as if she were trapped in a waking nightmare, her mind grappling with the dissonance between the world she thought she knew and the brutal reality that had just unfolded. Memories of safety and warmth now clashed with images of danger and betrayal, leaving her adrift in a sea of confusion. Every shattered piece of glass, every echo of the attacker's harsh commands, served as a reminder of a reality that seemed cruelly unpredictable. She longed for answers, clues to understand why fate had chosen this moment to unravel the threads of her existence. And yet, in the deep silence that followed, those answers remained maddeningly elusive. In the corners of the room, amidst scattered debris and the lingering scent of adrenaline, Derek found himself grappling with an unexpected loneliness. The fierce protective alpha was now rendered vulnerable by his own actions, and the quiet that followed was a stark contrast to the explosive power he had exhibited. His inner conflict was laid bare. A man who had always stood as a pillar of strength now found himself questioning if his own resolve was enough to guard not just his pack, but the fragile hope that flickered within him. The weight of leadership, the constant demand to protect others, now pressed down upon him with an intensity that bordered on despair. As minutes turned to hours in that heavy, drawn-out silence, both Derek and Selena were left to confront the tumult of their inner worlds. The cafe's once familiar ambiance now felt like an alien landscape, transformed by the trauma of violence and the echo of unspoken questions. In the quiet aftermath, their shared glances carried the burden of their mutual isolation, a silent recognition that the night had changed them irreparably. Derek finally approached Selena, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry," he murmured, the simple words heavy with regret and empathy. "I never imagined that it would shatter our world like this." His admission was not just an apology for the chaos, but a confession of the internal storm that now raged within him, a storm that threatened to erode the very foundations of his carefully constructed identity. In response, Selena's eyes glistened with a mixture of fear and reluctant hope. "Why did it have to happen?" she asked, her voice trembling with a desperate need for understanding. "Why us?" The question lingered, unanswered, echoing in the silence between them. A poignant reminder that sometimes, even in the aftermath of violence, the most painful mystery is the absence of explanation. And so, as the night deepened around them and the first tentative signs of dawn began to break the horizon, Derek and Selena stood together in the quiet, tumultuous aftermath of the attack. Their hearts, heavy with sorrow and unanswered questions, beat in an uneasy rhythm, a fragile pulse of hope that, despite the chaos, perhaps there was still a way forward in a world that had been irrevocably changed. Late that restless night, Selena sat alone in the dim glow of her computer screen, the quiet hum of the digital world a stark contrast to the turmoil raging within her. Every click and scroll felt like a desperate plea for answers, a search for clues hidden in the labyrinth of online myths and legends that might unravel the mystery of the attack and her own inexplicable destiny. Her eyes, heavy with a mixture of fear and determination, darted across obscure forum posts and encrypted websites dedicated to supernatural lore. The screen flickered with cryptic images of wolf-like figures and ancient symbols. Every article, every thread, hinted at a world that lay just beyond the veil of normalcy, a realm where destiny was written in whispered legends and long-forgotten prophecies. With trembling fingers, Selena typed keywords into the search bar. Glowing eyes, werewolf legends, hidden bloodline, and Crescent Moon secret. The results were overwhelming, a cascade of tales and testimonies that blurred the line between myth and reality. The deeper she delved, the more she realized that her own story might be intertwined with these age-old secrets. One forum post in particular caught her attention, a thread titled Destiny of the Unawakened. Its content was raw and passionate, filled with accounts of individuals who, like her, had experienced inexplicable awakenings and sudden shifts in their perception of the world. The post described a mysterious force that stirred dormant powers within those touched by ancient bloodlines, urging them to embrace their true nature. Selena's heart pounded as she read each word, feeling as though the universe had sent her a secret message, urging her to piece together the fragments of her hidden past. Unable to find all the answers she craved in the digital realm, Selena decided to visit the local library, a venerable building that seemed as old as time itself. The library's heavy wooden doors groaned as she pushed them open, and the musty scent of aged paper and ink filled her senses. Inside, the dimly lit corridors were lined with towering shelves of books that whispered tales of yore. It was here that the true magic of history lived, a magic that could bridge the gap between modern technology and ancient myth. Selena wandered through the labyrinth of books, her fingers brushing over spines that were cracked with age. In a secluded corner of the library, she discovered a section dedicated to local folklore and supernatural legends. Dust motes danced in the beams of light that streamed through stained glass windows, illuminating faded manuscripts and yellowed pages. She pulled out a particularly worn volume titled Legends of Silverwood, Myths and Mysteries of the Enchanted City. Its cover was adorned with intricate carvings that hinted at a lost civilization, and the pages inside were filled with eerie illustrations of wolves, full moons, and cryptic symbols. As she flipped through the fragile pages, Selena found accounts of a secretive pack said to guard the city's hidden energies, a pack whose origins stretched back centuries. The text described how this pack, known in whispered legends as the Crescent Moon, was not only a guardian of Silverwood's mystical heritage, but also a harbinger of fate for those touched by its power. The narrative was imbued with an almost tangible sorrow, a reminder of sacrifices made in the name of destiny and the heavy burden of hidden truths. With every page, the library seemed to come alive around her. The soft rustle of paper and the distant hum of the air conditioning blended with the cadence of her racing thoughts. Each legend she uncovered added another piece to the puzzle of her own identity, a revelation that perhaps her survival and the trauma of that violent night were not random but part of a grander, preordained plan. The eerie language of the old texts spoke of the unawakened and the call of the ancestral wolf, phrases that sent shivers down her spine and ignited a flicker of recognition deep within her. In one particularly compelling excerpt, an ancient scribe wrote, "In the stillness of despair when shadows consume the light, the blood of the unawakened shall stir, and from the depths of sorrow, the true nature of destiny shall be revealed." Selena read the passage over and over, each repetition etching the words into her heart. Could it be that she was one of these unawakened souls, destined to rise from the ashes of pain and unlock a hidden power that had been dormant all her life? The library became her sanctuary, a place where the past and present converged, and where whispered legends offered a glimmer of hope amid the chaos. Surrounded by relics of forgotten lore, Selena scribbled notes in a tattered journal, mapping out connections between the digital clues and the ancient manuscripts. Every thread she pulled on revealed new questions. What was the true nature of her connection to the Crescent Moon? Why had fate led her to survive, to be marked by a trauma that now pointed to something larger than herself? As the night wore on, Selena's frantic search evolved into a determined quest. The eerie silence of the library, punctuated by the soft, turning of pages, mirrored the internal quiet that followed her storm of emotions. With each new discovery, the mysteries deepened, and the weight of her hidden destiny became both a burden and a promise. The shadows of the old book seemed to murmur secrets meant only for her, urging her to embrace the unknown and step into the role that fate had laid before her. In that moment, surrounded by the wisdom of the ages and the flickering light of antiquity, Selena felt both the ache of loss and the spark of transformation. The digital search had led her here, to a threshold between the known and the mysterious, where every unanswered question was a stepping stone towards the revelation of her true self. And as she gathered her thoughts, she realized that the journey for answers was only just beginning, promising a future where destiny and survival would intertwine in ways she had yet to imagine. In the still, shadowed hours before dawn, as the final remnants of night clung to the edges of Silverwood, Selena felt a shift deep within, a stirring that she could no longer deny. Surrounded by the ancient whispers of the library and the silent promise of forgotten legends, the truth that had long been hidden began to rise from the depths of her soul. It started as a flicker, a subtle vibration beneath her skin, but quickly grew into an overwhelming force that coursed through every fiber of her being. Seated at a small wooden table in a secluded corner of the library, Selena's trembling hands clutched a tattered journal filled with cryptic notes and old, fading symbols. As she reread the haunting lines from the ancient texts, lines that spoke of the unawakened and the ancestral call of the wolf, a realization took hold. The words seemed to vibrate with an energy that resonated with her very core, echoing the silent pulse of something primal and untamed within her. In that moment, the possibility struck her with breathtaking clarity. She, too, harbored a wolf inside, a dormant power waiting to be awakened. A surge of conflicting emotions overwhelmed her. Fear intermingled with a fierce, liberating hope. Her heart pounded like a war drum, each beat summoning the courage she never knew she possessed. With eyes wide and shimmering with both trepidation and wonder, she slowly closed her journal, the pages now alive with a secret promise. The library's air, heavy with the scent of ancient paper and whispered memories, seemed to crackle with energy, as if the very building recognized the monumental transformation about to occur. Selena's body began to tremble uncontrollably. It wasn't just an emotional upheaval, it was a physical awakening that surged from within. A rush of heat coursed through her veins, her skin prickling as if thousands of tiny sparks danced along its surface. She could feel the old magic, the primal call of the wolf, awakening after years of slumber. With every breath, the sensation grew stronger, a potent mix of raw power and unbridled emotion that left her dizzy with anticipation. In the mirror of a dusty ancient hallway, Selena caught her reflection, a momentary glimpse of a woman on the brink of becoming something altogether different. Her eyes, once soft and hesitant, now burned with a luminous intensity. They held an otherworldly glow, as if lit from within by an inner fire that defied the mundane. Her face, framed by locks of hair that now seemed to shimmer with a subtle, wild radiance, bore the marks of transformation. The quiet vulnerability that had haunted her was replaced by a fierce, determined resolve, a silent declaration that she was ready to embrace the destiny that had long whispered her name. The transformation was not merely internal. As she stood there, the fabric of her clothes clung to her in a new way, accentuating the graceful power of her posture. Her senses sharpened. She could hear the distant rustle of leaves and the soft murmur of the wind as if every sound were amplified. The night seemed to pulse with the promise of a new beginning, a realm where the boundaries between human and beast blurred into a seamless continuum of strength and beauty. In that breathtaking moment, the revelation of her true self was both exhilarating and fraught with uncertainty. The very idea of harboring a wolf within, of being part of an ancient lineage that balanced on the edge of two worlds, filled her with both wonder and fear. What did this mean for her future? How would this newfound power change her life, her relationships, her very sense of identity? The questions swirled around her like leaves in a storm, each one more urgent than the last. Yet, even amidst the storm of uncertainty, a spark of clarity burned bright within her. Selena understood that this awakening was not a curse, but a gift, a hidden key to unlocking a destiny that was as wild and unpredictable as the full moon shining through the library's high windows. She felt a profound connection to the legends of Silverwood, to the ancient tales of guardians and warriors who had walked similar paths before her. In that intimate communion with her own essence, she embraced the paradox of her existence, the delicate interplay between fragility and ferocity, between the pain of the past and the promise of an untamed future. With a deep, steadying breath, Selena closed her eyes and allowed the power to flow freely through her. The surge of energy, like a torrent of life, carried her away from the confines of doubt and into a realm where destiny and self-discovery merged. In that solitary, transformative moment, she vowed to explore the depths of this newfound power, to honor the legacy that had been waiting for her to awaken, and to stand tall in the face of the mysteries that now beckoned her forward. And so, as the first light of dawn began to seep through the ancient windows, Selena emerged from the shadows of her former self, a woman reborn, her destiny unmasked, and her spirit ignited by the call of the wild. The revelation was as breathtaking as it was terrifying, a turning point that promised to redefine her existence in ways she had never dared to imagine. Under the pale light of a waning moon, the fragile calm that had begun to settle over Silverwood was abruptly shattered by the arrival of a presence that exuded menace and dark charisma. His name was Cain, a figure whose very aura seemed to embody betrayal and ruthless ambition. As the night deepened, his silhouette emerged from the shadows like a specter of the past, drawing all eyes with an unsettling magnetism that made even the whispering wind pause in apprehension. Cain moved with a deliberate, predatory grace, his gaze cold and calculating. There was an intensity in his eyes, an almost hypnotic quality that hinted at a dangerous secret. His presence alone spoke volumes of the dark legacy he carried, a legacy intertwined with betrayal and long-forgotten grievances. Rumors had long circulated among the supernatural circles of Silverwood about a rift within the ancient packs, a division that had sown the seeds of discord and set Cain on a path of retribution. Now, as he stepped into the light, those rumors were given flesh and form. For Selena, whose recent awakening had begun to unearth the dormant power within her, Cain's appearance was like a thunderclap in a clear sky. He approached with an air of entitlement, his voice smooth yet edged with a sinister promise. "So, you've finally awakened," he said, his tone both mocking and commanding. There was an undeniable arrogance in his words, as if he believed that the blood that flowed in Selena's veins was not only his by right, but also a key to reclaiming a power that had been lost through treachery. Derek, standing protectively by Selena's side, felt his pulse quicken at Cain's intrusion. The tension in the air was electric, each second laden with unspoken challenges. Cain's connection to Selena's bloodline was a topic shrouded in ambiguity and controversy, whispers of a betrayal that had fractured alliances and left scars on both human and supernatural hearts. He claimed that Selena's lineage was marked by an ancient debt, one that had been long overdue for reckoning. "Your family," Cain continued with a smirk that bordered on derision, "once allied with those who wronged us. They thought they could escape their destiny, but the truth has a way of finding you." His words, dripping with insinuation, posed a provocative question about loyalty and fate. Were Selena's ancestors truly complicit in a betrayal that had cost lives and shattered trust? Or was Cain's claim merely an excuse to impose his own will upon her destiny? Selena's eyes, still glowing faintly with the remnants of her transformation, narrowed as she searched Cain's face for a hint of sincerity. The uncertainty in his intentions was as palpable as the chill that ran down her spine. His dark charisma and compelling authority were undeniable, yet his words carried the weight of an agenda that was as old as it was obscure. With every step, Cain's presence seemed to thicken the air, drawing both admiration and fear from those who dared to meet his gaze. "I'm not here to rewrite your past," Cain said, his voice lowering into a near whisper that nevertheless resonated with a commanding power. "I'm here to ensure that the legacy of our blood is acknowledged, no matter the cost." His words hung in the space between them like a challenge, daring Selena to confront the truth of her heritage. The very notion of legacy and betrayal was fraught with layers of complexity, questions that had long haunted the hidden corridors of the supernatural world. Could it be that the inexplicable events of her life, the trauma, the awakening, even the violent forces now converging around her, were pieces of an ancient puzzle that Cain was determined to solve on his own terms? Derek, his jaw set in a hard line, clenched his fists as he prepared to defend the woman who had, in so many ways, become both his responsibility and his beacon of hope. "You have no right to dictate her destiny," he growled, his voice laced with both authority and personal conviction. "Her path is her own to choose." The challenge in his tone was clear, a warning that any attempt by Cain to control or manipulate the fate of someone so dear would be met with relentless resistance. Cain's lips curled into a sardonic smile, the faint glimmer of cruelty in his eyes betraying his true intent. "Isn't that what you believe?" he taunted. "That fate is something you can simply defy with willpower? Or do you realize, Derek, that some destinies are carved in blood and betrayal, leaving little room for defiance?" His words, provocative and unsettling, echoed through the silence that had settled over the space, casting a shadow over the fragile hope that had begun to blossom between Selena and Derek. In that charged moment, the questions of loyalty and destiny coiled tightly in the air. Was Cain's claim a genuine warning, a necessary reminder of a historical debt that must be repaid? Or was it a self-serving ploy, designed to fracture the unity of the packs and assert his dominance over those who dared to defy him? The ambiguity of his intentions was a razor's edge, threatening to cut the delicate fabric of trust that had begun to form around Selena. As the confrontation deepened, the night itself seemed to hold its breath, the stillness punctuated only by the sound of distant thunder and the subtle rhythmic beating of anxious hearts. In that moment, with Cain standing as both a harbinger of the past and a challenger to the future, a new chapter of uncertainty unfurled, one where every question about loyalty, betrayal, and the true nature of destiny loomed large, promising that the battle for Selena's soul was only just beginning. In the dim light of a waning moon, the tension between Derek and Cain reached a fevered pitch, as if the very air had ignited with the impending promise of conflict. The space between them, once filled with cautious words and tentative glances, now crackled with raw, unbridled energy, a clash of titanic wills that could no longer be ignored. It began with a charged exchange of words that sliced through the fragile calm like shards of ice. Derek's voice, low and steady, resonated with the authority of an alpha whose duty was to protect and to lead. "You have no claim over her destiny, Cain," he declared, each syllable laced with the force of his convictions. His eyes, bright and unwavering, challenged the dark charisma that emanated from his rival. Cain's smirk deepened as he leaned in, his tone dripping with venomous amusement. "And you, Derek, seem so confident in your ability to shield her from the truths of our past. But tell me, how long can you hide behind your pride when the blood of betrayal courses through her veins?" His words reverberated in the charged silence between them, each accusation a spark threatening to ignite a blazing inferno. The verbal sparring escalated rapidly, a duel of dark truths and resolute defiance. Derek's retort was swift, his tone sharp. "I choose to honor the future, not dwell on the sins of the past. Selena's path is hers to decide, not yours to manipulate with your bitterness. His declaration was not merely an assertion of his protective role. It was a challenge. A call to defend the sanctity of a destiny that was still in the making. Cain's eyes narrowed, and the space between them seemed to shrink as he stepped closer, his presence a force of nature that exuded menace. You think that defiance alone can erase the legacy that binds us all. But legends, Derek, do not fade away with a mere act of will. They are carved in blood and forged in betrayal. You cannot hide from the truth of our lineage, he spat, his voice rising, echoing off the cold stone walls of the gathering place. The sound of his words mingled with the distant rumble of thunder, a sinister accompaniment to the rising storm of their confrontation. Around them, the atmosphere thickened, charged with the promise of more than just a heated exchange. Onlookers among the pack, their expressions a mix of apprehension and anticipation, sensed that this was no ordinary spat between two alphas. The tension in the room was palpable, every whisper and sideways glance underscoring the gravity of the moment. Even the flickering light from overhead torches danced erratically, as if mirroring the chaos of conflicting destinies. Derek's jaw tightened as he advanced a step, his tone turning icy. If you truly believe your version of history, then explain why you continue to cling to the past. What is it that you truly seek to gain from tormenting Selena with your dark claims? His question was a challenge, a dare for Cain to reveal his true intentions beyond the cloak of vengeance and manipulation. Cain's lips curled into a bitter smile, his gaze unyielding. I seek to reclaim what was stolen. Honor, legacy, and the rightful place of those betrayed. I seek to remind this pack and the world that some debts can never be repaid by ignoring them. And if you stand in my way, then you are complicit in that very betrayal. His words hung in the air, heavy with implication, suggesting that the rivalry between them was not merely a personal dispute, but a battle for the soul of their entire lineage. The verbal duel intensified, each word charged with emotion and ancient pain. Derek's voice, though calm, vibrated with a fierce determination that belied the turbulence roiling beneath. I will not allow your bitterness to cast a shadow over what Selena deserves, her freedom to shape her own destiny. I stand here not just as her protector, but as a guardian of hope, willing to defy any force that would drag her into the darkness. His tone was resolute, a declaration of war against the creeping influence of Cain's dark ambitions. In that moment, the confrontation between the two alphas reached a critical juncture. The clash of their ideologies, the raw intensity of their rivalry, was unmistakable, a prelude to a greater storm that loomed on the horizon. The room seemed to pulse with anticipation, as if the very walls could sense that this battle was only the beginning, a spark that would soon ignite a conflagration threatening to engulf not just their personal fates, but the entire supernatural order of Silverwood. As the echoes of their heated exchange faded into a heavy, expectant silence, both Derek and Cain stood locked in a battle of wills. The charged atmosphere left no doubt that the ideological rift between them was a harbinger of something far more significant, a coming clash that would test loyalties, reshape destinies, and force every member of their fractured world to choose sides. In that suspended moment, the promise of an even larger battle loomed, as inevitable as the rising tide, leaving everyone present to wonder. When the storm finally breaks, whose destiny will be written in blood? The night erupted into chaos as the rival packs clashed in an epic struggle beneath the full, watchful moon. The once quiet clearing near the edge of Silverwood transformed into a battlefield where the air vibrated with the raw intensity of combat. Derek, leading his Crescent Moon Pack, charged forward with unwavering resolve, his eyes burning with the fierce determination of an alpha defending his kin. Every step he took stirred the earth, his presence a rallying cry that ignited the hearts of his pack members. In the midst of the tumult, the sound of howling filled the air, a primal chorus echoing through the trees and over the damp, blood-stained ground. The clash of teeth and claws was relentless, a savage symphony of survival. Derek moved like a force of nature, his powerful frame weaving through the chaos as he intercepted savage blows and countered with calculated strikes. Each collision sent ripples of force through the clearing. Sparks flew as claws met hardened armor, and the echo of feral roars mingled with the resounding beat of his pounding heart. Amidst this maelstrom of violence, Selena emerged as a force of her own. No longer the quiet, haunted woman of recent days, she transformed before the eyes of those around her. As the enemy pack surged closer, a raw, untamed power awakened within her, a ferocity that mirrored the primal call of the wild. Her eyes shone with an unearthly light, and her movements became fluid and fearless, as if she had been reborn in the crucible of battle. With every sweeping strike of her newly honed claws and every guttural howl that escaped her lips, she carved a path of protection for Derek. Her transformation was as breathtaking as it was terrifying, a visceral display of the inner wolf, finally unchained. Derek's voice roared above the clamor, issuing commands that resonated with both authority and desperation. "Hold the line!" he bellowed, rallying his betas to repel the onslaught. His fists flew in a blur, each punch a calculated act of defiance against those who threatened his pack's legacy. Every movement was punctuated by the fierce determination of a leader who had no choice but to fight for everything he held dear. The atmosphere was thick with the metallic scent of blood and the raw, ear-splitting sounds of battle, a living tableau of chaos and valor. The enemy pack, equally fierce and unyielding, advanced with a savage precision that set the clearing ablaze with violence. Their snarls and feral yells merged into a relentless roar that seemed to shake the very ground. In this crucible of fury, the forces of destiny collided. Derek's eyes met Cain's across the battlefield, a silent, seething challenge that intensified the conflict. Yet even as the rival alphas exchanged no words, the battle around them spoke volumes about the ancient enmities and bitter betrayals that had brought them to this fateful night. Amid the swirling melee, Selena fought with an almost otherworldly grace. Her transformation was complete, a dazzling yet terrifying spectacle of raw power unleashed. With a series of swift, precise strikes, she repelled the advancing adversaries, her claws rending through the night air as if guided by destiny itself. Every movement was a testament to the strength of her spirit. Every ferocious snarl was a declaration that she would not allow harm to come to the man who had awakened something long dormant within her. Her presence on the battlefield was magnetic, drawing both admiration and fear as she became the living embodiment of the wild's untamed heart. The clashing forces created a cacophony that assaulted the senses, the thunderous impact of colliding bodies, the rhythmic beat of paws striking against hardened earth, and the visceral sounds of struggle filled every corner of the clearing. Amid this sensory onslaught, the flickering light of torches and the pale gleam of the moon cast dramatic shadows that danced upon the ground, a surreal stage set for a battle that was as much about honor and legacy as it was about survival. Derek, in the thick of the fray, fought with a relentless ferocity that belied the heavy toll of leadership. Each blow he struck was a desperate effort to protect his pack and preserve the fragile hope of a future unmarred by betrayal. His eyes, alight with determination, tracked the every movement of his foes as he parried and countered with a precision honed by years of duty. Every breath he took was laced with the promise of defiance, a vow that no matter how overwhelming the enemy, he would not falter. As the battle raged on, it became increasingly clear that this fierce confrontation was only the precursor to an even larger conflict, a spark that had ignited long-simmering tensions between the rival packs. The clearing, awash with the energy of raw combat and primal instinct, pulsed with the promise of more to come. In that critical, breathless moment, every clash of teeth and every roar of defiance whispered the haunting question: what destiny would be written in the blood of these warriors tonight? And so, beneath the relentless gaze of the full moon, the fierce battle continued, a visceral, cinematic struggle where primal rage was unleashed, and destinies were rewritten with every heartbeat. Amid the chaos, Derek's determined stand and Selena's wild, transformative fury shone as beacons of hope and defiance, heralding a future fraught with both promise and peril. In the hushed hours following the battle, as the first hints of dawn painted the sky in soft pastels, the chaos that had engulfed Silverwood slowly began to subside. The clearing, once a maelstrom of clashing forces and raw, primal fury, now lay strewn with the physical remnants of combat, a tapestry of scattered debris, shattered weapons, and the silent testimony of a conflict that had left its mark on every soul present. Amidst this quiet aftermath, a tender stillness emerged, as if nature itself was offering solace to the wounded and weary. Derek knelt by a fallen comrade, his hands trembling not only from the lingering adrenaline, but from the ache of loss and the heaviness of responsibility. His face, smeared with dirt and streaked with the remnants of blood, bore the unmistakable signs of a fierce battle fought with honor and desperation. Yet, in the quiet, every harsh sound had given way to a gentle murmur, the soft rustling of leaves, the distant cooing of birds awakening to a new day, and the steady, rhythmic breathing of those who survived. In these moments of stillness, the raw intensity of combat was replaced by a profound vulnerability, a shared acknowledgement of pain, and a tentative step toward healing. Across the field, Selena moved with a measured grace that belied the chaos of the night. Her transformation on the battlefield had been nothing short of awe-inspiring, but now, in the fragile quiet of recovery, she appeared almost ethereal, fragile yet resolute. She approached Derek slowly, her eyes reflecting the sorrow of recent horrors and the spark of hope that had begun to rekindle within her. In her gaze, there was an unspoken question, a plea for understanding, for reassurance that amidst the scars and the loss, something beautiful could still emerge. Their reunion was wordless at first. Derek's hands, calloused and stained by battle, reached out tentatively to touch hers. The contact was electric yet gentle, as if confirming that despite the chaos, their bond remained unbroken. For a moment, time seemed to suspend around them, the high, fractured pieces of their battered world coalescing into a single fragile promise of love and renewal. In that quiet embrace, the lingering tension of the battle melted away, replaced by a shared determination to heal and to find solace in one another. Selena's voice, soft and tremulous, broke the silence. "I was so scared," she admitted, her words laced with the raw truth of her emotions. Not just of what happened, but of losing everything, of being alone. Her confession hung in the air like a fragile bloom, vulnerable yet resilient. Derek's gaze softened as he drew her closer, his own voice barely above a whisper. "You're not alone, Selena. I'm here, and I always will be." His promise was more than mere reassurance. It was a vow forged in the crucible of conflict, and tempered by the tender aftermath of shared pain. As they slowly stood together, the surrounding scene bore the unmistakable marks of a fierce battle now quieted into reflective calm. The ground was littered with the scars of the night's violence, yet amidst the rubble, small signs of nature's reclaiming beauty, tiny wildflowers breaking through the soil, rays of gentle sunlight piercing the remnants of darkness, spoke of new beginnings. This delicate interplay between destruction and renewal mirrored their own journey. Their bodies were marked by wounds, both visible and hidden, yet within those wounds lay the seeds of healing and the promise of transformation. In a nearby makeshift infirmary set up by the pack's healers, the wounded were tended to with care, their groans and whispered thanks blending with the soft murmur of compassionate voices. Derek and Selena, though not among the most grievously injured, sat side by side on a worn wooden bench outside, absorbing the quiet aftermath. Their conversation was measured, reflective, a gentle exploration of what it meant to survive the fury of the night and to rebuild in its wake. "Sometimes I wonder if these scars will ever truly fade," Selena murmured, running a finger along a fresh cut on her arm. Her tone was reflective, carrying the weight of both regret and hope. Or if they're just reminders of the strength it took to keep going. Derek reached out, intertwining his fingers with hers in a silent act of comfort. "They're both," he replied softly. "They remind us of what we endured and of the resilience that lives within us. Every mark is a testament to our will to survive and to love." As the morning matured and the sun rose higher, casting a warm glow over the battered field, a sense of quiet hope began to permeate the air. The carnage of the night was slowly being healed by the gentle passage of time, each moment a small step toward recovery. For Derek and Selena, the chaos of the battle had given way to an even greater, more enduring force: love. It was a love born from shared hardship, a love that defied the darkness and promised a future filled with possibility. In that serene interlude, they allowed themselves to simply be, two souls bound by the trials of the night, finding strength in each other's presence. The lingering tension of battle, once so overwhelming, now seemed like a distant echo. And in that quiet, tender space, the promise of healing and the gentle assurance of togetherness began to mend the broken pieces of their world, one heartbeat at a time. As dawn broke over Silverwood, its ancient streets and ivy-clad facades bathed in a soft golden light, a fragile calm settled over the city, a temporary lull after a night of fierce battle and deep transformation. In the quiet aftermath, the echoes of violence and whispered promises of healing still lingered in every corner, yet beneath that serene exterior, an undercurrent of uncertainty stirred. The Crescent Moon Pack, scarred but unbowed, had begun to stitch together the remnants of their fractured world, and Derek and Selena, united by love and shared struggle, found solace in the tender moments of recovery. But as with all fragile peace, the horizon held the promise of more danger, more passion, and more unanswered questions. Walking along a narrow, winding alley, Derek paused to gaze at the rising sun that ignited the sky with brilliant hues of amber and rose. Every beam of light seemed to illuminate not only the beauty of Silverwood's storied past, but also the looming shadows of a future yet uncharted. In that reflective silence, the weight of his responsibilities, the pain of loss, and the sweet relief of love all intermingled in a quiet symphony of hope and foreboding. He wondered if, amid the healing, the delicate balance they had fought so hard to preserve might again be tested by forces unknown. At the heart of the city, Selena lingered in the quiet of an old courtyard, where the gentle murmur of water from a stone fountain merged with the rustling of leaves. There, she traced her fingers along a weathered inscription on a pillar, a message left by a long-forgotten guardian of Silverwood. Its words, both cryptic and evocative, hinted at a destiny larger than any one individual could bear. In every ending, a new beginning stirs. In every loss, a promise of rebirth is sown. The inscription left her with a lingering question that resonated deep within her. What price would fate demand next? Meanwhile, distant from the healing embrace of the pack house and the quiet corners of Silverwood's historic quarters, a subtle disturbance began to weave its way into the fabric of the night. In the darkened edges of the forest, where the wild and the supernatural merged into a realm of secrets, an unfamiliar howl echoed, a sound that was not quite like the others, carrying with it an ominous warning of an emerging threat. It was as if the very air had shifted, preparing to usher in a new chapter of conflict, where the lines between friend and foe, destiny and betrayal, would blur once more. Inside the pack house, the survivors gathered around a flickering fire, their expressions solemn as they recounted the events of the previous night. The battle had been fierce, and while many wounds were healing, the scars, both visible and hidden, served as constant reminders of the price they had paid. Yet, even amid the sorrow and exhaustion, there was a spark of determination in their eyes. The battle had united them in ways they had never imagined, strengthening the bonds of loyalty and love that were the lifeblood of the Crescent Moon Pack. Derek, with his voice steady and eyes filled with both resolve and cautious hope, addressed his gathered kin. "We have weathered a storm, and though the wounds run deep, we must remember that each scar is a testament to our resilience. But tonight, as we begin to heal, let us not forget that our journey is far from over." His words, delivered with the gravitas of an alpha and the tenderness of a man who had known loss and love alike, hung in the air, mingling with the crackle of the dying embers. Across town, Selena felt the pull of the unknown, a magnetic force that urged her to seek out the whispers of fate hidden in the shadows. Her mind raced with questions about the old legends and the murmurings in the digital forums, about the bloodline that connected her to ancient, secret powers. With every whispered rumor, with every shadowy glimpse of long-forgotten lore, she sensed that the new threat was not just a random anomaly, but a piece of a much larger puzzle. A puzzle that promised to unravel mysteries of destiny, power, and the eternal struggle between darkness and light. In a quiet, secluded study filled with ancient manuscripts and glowing screens, Selena began to piece together clues, a mosaic of cryptic prophecies and whispered warnings that hinted at the return of an adversary whose name sent shivers through the supernatural world. The evidence was scattered and enigmatic, yet the threads wove together a narrative that foretold of challenges yet to come. Her heart pounded with both excitement and dread, knowing that the calm they had so dearly embraced was but the calm before an even more turbulent storm. As the day progressed and the sun ascended higher, casting long shadows and brilliant light across Silverwood, the promise of renewal was tempered by the unsettling realization that fate always demanded its due. The lingering question that now resonated in every heart, whispered in every silent moment, was both simple and profound. What will fate demand next? In this reflective epilogue, the narrative of love, loss, and unyielding strength comes to a pause, a cinematic still frame that balances hope with the foreboding promise of more, danger and passion on the horizon. The bonds forged in the crucible of battle glimmer with the promise of healing, even as the specter of an impending threat looms large. And as the viewers are left with this lingering question, they are reminded that in the realm of destiny, every ending is merely the prelude to a new, uncertain beginning, a beginning that, like the first light of dawn, carries both the brilliance of hope and the subtle hint of shadows yet to come.